Hello everyone, my name is Kavya Sharma and I would like to welcome each one of you to Pragati Vichar Literature Festival 2023 organized by Frontlist Media. The theme for this year is Taking Humanity Forward. Today we have two very special guests with us today and we'll be celebrating literature and showing our love towards it. So I'll start with our very first guest for today which is Air Marshal Iyer embarked on fitness journey when he was 47 years old, a journey that enabled him to run more than 120,000 kilometers. That's so much, sir, and it is such a pleasure for us to have you. This includes several marathon races of 42 kilometers and ultra marathon from Agra to Delhi, the distance of 240 kilometers presently. At the age of 92, he still continues to run 8 kilometers a day. So you're such an inspiration to everyone here. He has recently penned down a book which is known as Fitness at Any Age, a practitioner's guide, which is published by Bloomsbury India. Thank you, sir. It's such an honor to have you here today. I have a very special guest with us also today, which is Shelja Menon. She is an amazing yoga teacher and somebody that inspires me a lot. And ma'am, it's a pleasure for me to have you here because I am somebody who really loves yoga and talking to you makes me feel so special. I am extremely delighted to have you here. Ma'am is not only a yoga teacher, but ma'am is also a speaker, freelancer, editor, writer based in Malaysia. She has over 18 years of experience in yoga, both as a teacher and a practitioner. She has her own studio also where she teaches, which is known as Mat and Beyond Yoga Studio, which is also in Malaysia. Her ability to translate yoga from mere shafts of mat to liquid. She's somebody who can make you learn yoga in just a fraction of seconds and is somebody who can inspire you on a day-to-day basis. Ma'am has also recently written down a book known as Yoga Shakti, Awaken Your Own Power, which is published by Niyogi Books Private Limited. It is such an honor and pleasure to have you here, ma'am. So, as you all are now introduced to our audience and to our special speakers, let me come to the interesting part, the session for the theme, which is mental health and wellness. And the topic for today's session is It's Never Too Late to Start. So, sir, I have my first question to you, Mr. Iyer. You started running at the age of 47. What inspired you to do this and make it as a daily schedule? What kept you to keep running for 45 years?
When I was young, I was not a great enthusiast of sports as such, nor was I an expert in any particular game. I was serving in the Air Force, and when I was 47 years old, the Air Force introduced a new policy. It said that every person must complete a test for fitness once a year, and the result will be recorded in the confidential report of the person. So it was a career defining moment. In order to progress in the Air Force, we had to be fit. And one of the tests was to be able to run a mile in less than a certain number of minutes, depending on your age. Since I was 47 years at that time, I had to run a mile under 7 minutes. So I started practicing. I never had experience of running, but as I started running more and more number of minutes, I realized two things: that it is not difficult to run if you take it easy, and secondly, each human being is endowed with so much genes for fitness and especially for running. So I happily ran and I was able to complete that mile in well less than 7 minutes. That started my journey of discovery of fitness. I kept on running more and more distance and enjoyed it and started experimenting with various types of fitness. Like I fashioned a 5 kilo belt and I would put on that belt and jog up and down. I used to be stationed in Kanpur. There the river Ganga flows And on the banks of the Ganga, there are so many sand dunes, each one about 15, 20 feet high. About several of them, about 20 sand dunes. I would put on my weighted belt, barefooted, run up a sand dune, go down, then go to the next sand dune, and so on for about an hour. You can imagine, even without going and setting about it, how much strength it must have given to my hearts and lungs and legs. Very soon after that, I competed in an Asian veterans race in Singapore in 1981. I ran the 5,000 meters race, competed against Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so many countries. I won the gold medal there. So that spurred me on and never stopped running after that, day after day. And here I am doing it at the age of 93 now. Does it answer your question?
Absolutely, sir. It has answered my question. So, ma'am, I have a question for you as well. When did you started practicing yoga, and how did you come up to know the fact that yoga is something that you truly connect with and it's something that inspires you as well?
Well, since our topic is related to mental health as well, that was one of the reasons actually I stepped into the yoga practice. Because, growing up in India, everybody knew that yoga had a deep connection to mental wellness.
Yes.
So at that time in my life, I felt pretty stressed out with my life. And the natural option was just try yoga. So when I came to Coimbatore at that point, I signed up with the Integral Yoga Institute here. And at my very first yoga class, right, at the end of that class, after what they call yoga nidra or deep relaxation, when I came out of that, I just felt so good, like a whole weight had been lifted off my mind. And I knew at that point that I would never stop doing it because I couldn't let that feeling of wellness go because I had never experienced that in my life before. So there was really no turning back because, once you experience something good, you don't want to go back into, that same feeling of dullness and anxiety and all of that. So that, and you found the path, right? You found something that works. So it was really not, any big like decision that I had to force myself to do it. It just felt so good. I just had to do it. That's it. And I've never stopped since then. And it's been 23 years now.
It's been so long, and I think once you start doing something, it just makes you feel a passion about it. Do you feel that way when you started for the first time?
Yeah, I think it's the feeling of wellness, right? That instilled the passion because you want to be well, right? Everybody's seeking to feel good about themselves. Everybody's seeking to, but we don't always feel that way. And once you find something that takes you there, then you don't want to go back to being the way that you were. So it was a no-brainer. Like I just had to do it because I want to be well and I want to be happy and I want good energy, right?
So will it be correct to say that yoga is your key to happiness?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it gives you a path to get past, like everybody will tell you, right? Today, the biggest killer, which is accepted in science as well, is stress, right? And where does stress originate? It originates in the mind. And where does it express? It expresses in the body, right? So chronic stress, I would say, is related to most diseases today. Right? So this mind-body connection is not just something that yoga talks about. Today, it is being evidenced in science as well. So this is something that doctors talk about as well. But though your doctor may tell you have to reduce your stress, nobody really tells you how to do it, right? But the greatest contribution of yoga is that it actually gives you specific tools in a very holistic manner, right? Through the use of the body, through the use of the breath, through the philosophy to elevate the mind. It gives you these different ways in which that it lifts your life. And it really, truly helps you manage stress. Again, not just, a yoga person saying it, but all of this is evidenced by science today. Because the amazing thing is today, science speaks the same language of yoga, right? Breathing, especially after COVID, right? Or during COVID. One of the biggest things that people became very conscious about is their breath. And yoga has been talking about, the breath and the pranayama practices for, years.
Absolutely.
So today, the yoga language, people understand the value of yoga, especially after what happened during the COVID.
So my next question to you is, sir, what advice would you give to someone who spends most of their time complimenting rather than acting?
Mm, It's like this, contemplating has got its own value. You don't, you know, plunge into activity without thinking about it. So it's
Right.
okay. You contemplate, but for heaven's sake, at certain point of time, stop contemplating and start taking action. And the action, of course, which I recommend is physical activity. Fitness, of course, we all know that mind and body are so closely related that you can't separate one from the other. You must have a healthy body to have a healthy mind. And after all, we all exist to apply our mind, be creative, do our own things, our hobbies, our passions, our jobs. So, for that, initially you have to be fit. So, what is fitness? And why is it important? That is the first question I asked myself. Then I realized it brings a bouquet of blessings when you are fit. Small little things like, say, physical, mental, and spiritual. I'd say take out a few things. Have a good appetite, you digest well, you sleep well, you've got a glow on your skin. You know, our skin is a reflection of the health of our body. If you just go for a jog for 5-10 minutes and come back and look at yourself in the mirror, you will see a special glow, an attractive, call it complexion or whatever you want to call it. But such a thing you will not get by applying any cold cream or beauty aids or anything like that. So there you are. Then you start reducing weight. Your heart rate becomes less. Your respiratory rate becomes less. Your waistline starts reducing. You got to keep on buying new clothes every 2 months when you start reducing your weight. In addition, you are able to ward off diseases and you are able to carry on doing whatever you are doing without getting tired. You have got the stamina for it. These are all physical benefits of fitness, which most of which we can measure. Then comes the mental benefits. You are more enthusiastic to do your job. You've got self confidence. You've got self esteem. You've got a sense of humor. You have capacity to laugh at yourself, take things lightly, and the enthusiasm to learn new things and also to do your job in a most skillful way possible. These are qualities of mind which you develop. In spirituality, I'll say three things. You've got camaraderie and good feeling towards others. People who are less fortunate than us, you have a bit of their thinking about them. And lastly, your mind doesn't entertain bad thoughts like anger, selfishness, jealousy. Because when God has given us so many gifts, why should we entertain bad thoughts? So these are all the things which we get when we are fit. And the technical definition of fitness is just the heart should be able to dispatch blood through the blood vessels to every cell, every organ in the body. Your brain, your liver, your kidneys, they will all do their assigned function so long as they get a continuous supply of blood. And this is what the heart does. So keep your heart strong. The next question comes, if you ask me now or later, how to keep the heart strong and be fit.
So moving on. So, but when I was listening to you, one thing that was coming constantly to my mind was you at the age of even at 97, you managed to wake up and go out for a run. And me as a teenager, it is very difficult to get out of the bed. How do you motivate yourself every day to just go out and do it?
That I said, all the benefits I have narrated of fitness. Why would I go without all these things? And it is simple to keep fit. How do you keep the heart fit? by working it harder and faster. It may seem counter to logic. How is it an organ becomes stronger by making it work harder? Isn't it better to rest it and preserve it? But the opposite is true. It's a surprising scientific fact that heart, a muscle, like any other muscle, becomes stronger by working out. And how do you make the heart work stronger? Simple, by using your legs. Your legs contain the maximum number of muscles and bone in the body. And when they work, they demand more and more oxygen. And the heart has to work harder and harder to supply this oxygen. So, anything that makes your legs move, walking, jogging, running, climbing, swimming, cycling, workout on a treadmill, aerobic dance, anything and everything which makes the legs move is a step towards fitness. That means you may ask the question, we all move every day, we use our leg, we work out, we go shopping, we go to work, we do house chores, but technically that is not enough. The requirement is the heart should be kept at a high rate at least 20 to 25 minutes at a time.
Okay.
Even games like tennis and even football, there are periods of activity and rest. That does not qualify for fitness. Continuous raise heart rate for at least 25 minutes. And there you are the mantra for fitness, move your legs.
Now we have a mantra for fitness, which is move your legs. Thank you, sir, for that. Ma'am, I have a similar question to you as well, which is how do you also keep yourself motivated to wake up and just get started with yoga? What does that adrenaline rush that you have in the morning that, oh, I'll do it?
Well, like I said earlier as well, right? The benefits of the practice. You move into such a better place, right? So the yoga, the larger perspective is really to be able to express your higher self in every dimension of your life. So emotionally, spiritually, physically, it lifts you in all these different dimensions. So the question is always of moving forward, right? We all know we have these issues. So it's constant working on ourselves. One of the greatest aspects of yoga is deepening awareness. Yeah, becoming more conscious of ourselves. So it's a very common word, awareness, consciousness. But how do we actually do that? It's quite strange because when people come into my class, right, they're all very, like doctors, lawyers, engineers. But still, when you tell them lift your left leg, lift your right leg, right, it's all a jumble. When I say left leg, right leg will go up. When I say left hand, right hand will go. Because we're really very disconnected from our bodies.
Okay.
So this awareness, what we talk about, it actually begins, the easy way is that it begins with the body, because the body is very gross, right? The body is something that you can feel, the body is something that you can touch. It's easier to work with the body than other aspects like the breath or the mind first, which is why asana is like the calling card. Right? It's something everybody can connect with, everybody can relate with, and everybody can consciously work with a certain level of enjoyment. So that is how awareness starts to deepen. So you begin with the body. Then slowly, if you have a good teacher, they will guide you to become aware of your breath while you're holding the posture, to become aware of the state of your mind as you're holding the posture, right? Are you comparing yourself with someone else? Are you judging yourself harshly? So that awareness of ourselves deepens at every level, physical, emotional, and as well as, our state of mind. So that awareness we carry into our everyday life.
Right.
Which eventually lifts our mind, right? We become so conscious of ourselves, good or bad. And I'm not saying that just because we're aware, we're doing everything right. But the key to transformation is awareness. Like if we're not even aware of what it is that we do now, how is it that we think now, what are the patterns that hold us captive, even though they're really bad patterns and they're dragging us down. If we're not even aware or conscious about ourselves, then we can never hope to make any change.
Right.
And that awareness to me comes through our yoga practice.
Absolutely.
So we are all born as human beings to grow, to develop, to elevate, right? To work towards that perfection. So while perfection may be a term, at least to express our higher selves. We may not be born that way, but our life is a constant work in progress. So when you look at it that way, then what puts you on that path, what keeps you on that path is really that awareness and consciousness, which for me comes through yoga practice. Right?
Right.
You're getting angry, you're getting agitated. If you become aware of that, right, you can instantly turn into your breath. Right? You may not be able to strike a pose everywhere, but you always have your breath to work with. Right? And like I said, all of this is evidenced by science. Right? So you just work on, long breathing, deep breathing, right? You're feeling very stressed, you're quite agitated. Then you start working on long exhalations. All of that will help you to calm your mind. But the key is you have to first be aware of that rising tension and stress within you. If you're not aware of that, then nothing happens. We're just reacting to life. And our whole life and many lifetimes can go by simply being in that reactive, unconscious state. Right? But if we want to truly become more conscious, we want to evolve, right? If we are able to accept that we are not perfect and we all have these flaws and these patterns that are not so helpful to us, then to me, yoga practice is the key. And it's not just like now yoga, that's the other key thing that I talk about. Yoga, everybody says, is kind of being limited to a 1 hour class that you do a week. But that's really a very limited concept of yoga. And now yoga and exercise also have become kind of the same thing, right? And you can strike a pose in whether you're exercising or doing yoga. But yoga is not like that. It may look like that, right? So there's a common line that we say that yoga it begins with a shape. Yeah, but the whole journey of yoga practice is from shape of the body to state of mind.
Right.
That is the practice. So we have to strike a shape maybe, but the problem today is that we limit it to that. We say, okay, I'm doing yoga, and then we're still saying, oh, I'm so fat, or I'm not touching my toes, or I'm not being able to balance myself, right? That whole thing goes on. But once awareness sets in, right, and once some kind of elevated thinking comes in, when the focus is on the practice and the focus is on the process, not just the end point, right, then we are able to actually practice yoga.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, I have a question for you that what advice would you give to someone who spends most of their time contemplating rather than acting?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Nike ad, which says just do it. Yeah. So, I mean, anything, it's just procrastination, right?
Right.
So the first thing that, we become aware of, our nature, right? If we understand that, we are procrastinators and we're just being putting off something that is a good thing. And the other thing, like Iyer sir was saying, right, you become aware of the benefits of the practice. So in my class, I actually talk a lot to my students because I say that it's important to know what you're doing, right? Rather than just tell people, sit and breathe, okay, focus on lengthening your exhalation, count 6:6 or 8:8, right? You have to tell them why you do it. And when they realize that it's really such a powerful tool to manage their mind, to manage their emotions, to manage their health eventually, because the state of the mind and the state of the body are so connected, right? If we have no control over our minds, then it's going to reflect in our bodies, eventually leading to disease and illness. So the awareness, so the understanding of why yoga is important, knowledge is the key. Right. So understanding the whole, practice of yoga, not just in its very limited form of, okay, it's about strengthening. It does strengthen your muscles. It does make your body more flexible. It does help you to improve your balance and your coordination. But that is not all it does.
Right.
Right. The awareness that it begins there. But eventually, it's really about transformation and about living our life at that elevated level where we are functioning in the highest possible level that is possible at all dimensions of life.
Right. So, Iyer sir, my next question to you is, your book fit at any age, a structure guide. So, sir, anything that you would like to say about the book? Because the name sounds so interesting, fit at any age, a practitioner's guide. So what is it basically about? Anything you'd like to say about it?
You see, our prehistoric ancestors, I'm talking of the people who lived millions of years ago in caves, their daily lifestyle was running. They had to run all the time. They had to hunt for food, and for that they had to run. They had to escape from other animals and dangers. Again, they had to run. Like this, by running every day, they develop very, very strong heart, lungs, and blood vessels and legs. These genes are each and every one of us. Even though millions of years have gone by, these genes don't die. You just discover them when you go out there and start your activity. If you have missed out working out in your youth, that is why I have termed the book Fit at Any Age. There is no need to worry or regret at all. You see, if a person is fit and for some reason he is injured and his leg is put on a cast and he is resting in the bed for a couple of months, you will see that half his muscles are wasted away just because of non-use. But luckily and fortunately, the reverse is also true. That means a person who has not worked out in his life, he or she can start working and within 3 months, they'll become as fit as the next person. That is the beauty of this fitness, that you can revive it at any age. And that is why it is important that we should work. Unfortunately, there is one condition. Fitness is something which you cannot store, like money in the bank. You put money in the savings bank, and after any time, say several months or years, it is there for you to use. Not so fitness. Fitness has to be earned every week. If you don't work out for 1 or 2 weeks, you can get by. But if you don't work out for 3 months, then you are as unfit as you started. So, fit at any age, keep on working, enjoy the benefits of fitness, and you are a better person.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, ma'am, I would like to move on to you now. So, Yoga Shakti, Awaken Your Own Power. So, what is the book about? Is it about awakening the power through yoga? And what is it about? I would love to know about it. Could you please share?
Yeah, I think the book really is about taking responsibility for our lives. And that's what yoga teaches us, right? Through awareness, we become aware of, what our patterns are, what are the things that drag us down, right? What is it that we need, our own emotional issues, right? How we feel, what triggers us, what keeps us happy. Awareness, through that, we have a better understanding of ourselves, and we have the ability to release and let go. Yeah, so that's actually one of my main themes. Everybody talks let go, right? There's a very famous or very common theme, right? If you go on Facebook or Instagram, just let go, let it go. Nobody tells you actually how to do it, right? So that's the other thing that I explore, that it's really about working with your mind, right? Which is something yoga gives you through awareness. You consciously learn. So I always tell my students, if there's one practice, if anybody asks what is yoga or what is the practice of yoga about, it's an attention practice. All about working with your mind consciously, right? So when you sit in class, the first thing that you do is take your mind, to have a general awareness of your gross body, become aware of your feet, become aware of your sit bones, become aware of your hands. And you will notice that even that maybe 30-second practice, the mind has gone everywhere else. So it's really about shining the light on the functions, and I say mainly dysfunctions of our mind, to come to terms with that and consciously work with that, to be able to connect to our own power. Yeah, we are all powerful. We are all beings of light, right? We all have that inner light within us, but somehow we're very disconnected from it because of these patterns that keep us down. So once we learn to first see the patterns, once we learn to release and let those patterns go, then we are connected to our own true power. Yeah. And then they also this, we all have this ability to blame the world, right? It's always somebody else's fault, right? But it's about taking responsibility for our own lives and understanding that, we're all placed in these different circumstances and we have the capacity to work with it and lift ourselves. So I'm very inspired by this very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 6, which says you have to lift yourself by yourself. And that is something that is very motivating, and it's a driving force. Yeah. So once we start looking for other people to do things for us, right? Other people to validate us, other people to give us opportunities, and you really work with whatever that you are given and you shine your own light, then I believe your path just opens up for you. But the responsibility lies with us, right? If we are not fit, we have to be able to see that pattern in us, that procrastinating pattern, that lazy pattern, right? And then we have to consciously, decide to do something different because we want to transform our lives, because we have this vision of living life at our highest self. So that is what the book is about. It's really about connecting to your own inner power by being able to release and let go of all the patterns that drag us down and keep us down because of our inability to see it or accept it. Some people see this illusion of perfection, right? We have to let go. We just all think we are perfect, the world is wrong, other people are wrong, it's other people's fault. And in that way, we never change and we never grow. So for growth, evolution, transformation, the ability to look at ourselves rawly, right? To see the good and the bad, to see the way our mind functions and dysfunctions, to see that the minute we meet somebody, we get triggered and, you can see anxiety levels rising, stress levels rising, to be able to see all that, to understand that we're not as cool as we think that we're not as balanced as we all like to think that we're perfect, right? But to know that that's not really the case, because we have to see the cracks, then only we can fill it in with the wisdom of yoga.
Right.
And the philosophy of yoga. So my book actually deals a lot with philosophy, because ultimately I feel that is something that's very, very neglected. Yoga has just become synonymous with asana, and it's not even asana, because there's no asana is a very rich word. It has not just the body, but it also has the breath element. It also has a mantra element. It also has an elevated mind element. All of that is what makes it asana practice. But today it's just holding a stretch, right? Or holding some strength pose. So that is my idea, to be able to share this beautiful wisdom of yoga so that the readers will at least leave having a broader understanding of the practice. That's it. At least they won't think that yoga practice is just holding, like, say, tree pose, or, and that there are so many layers, right? That is the most base layer, how you create a shape with your body. But over that, there are so many other layers. The layer of the breath, the layer of the mind, the layer of the spirit, right? And that is what truly makes it asana.
So thank you, ma'am, for the answer. So my next question is to you, sir. Does having low self-esteem qualifies as a mental health issue? Can you please share your viewpoint on that?
Definitely. Everyone is supposed to have self-esteem.
Right.
But it is certainly a mental health issue, because at least there is some quality in each and every one of us which makes us special. Now, in the case of physical exercises, it is scientifically established that so many endorphins are released when you do physical exercises, and that is supposed to be make you happier person and trigger you on to a normal healthy lifestyle. But the society can definitely help a person like that. There are three methods I would suggest. These days you hear about celebrities sharing their own mental problems in public. That motivates people who are suffering to go and seek help. Number two is the anonymous helplines. Anyone can ring up and tell their problems, and there's somebody or other willing to help you. And thirdly and lastly, close relations and friends, if they are supportive, it's a great thing for the sufferer. These are the 3 points I would like to make.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ma'am, what is your perspective about it? How does low self-esteem qualifies as a mental health issue?
Yeah, so I think that when we are born, that we're all born like happy, wonderful, and children. But what happens is along the way, people experience a lot of trauma. Yeah,
Right.
so I read somewhere that even the main problems that we face as adults, most of it actually stems from childhood, right? And it could not even be deliberate. Like, parents cause a lot of trauma to their children. And it's not even because they don't love them, but they just maybe are not so conscious, of the effect that the words that they have on their children, or the expectations that they have, could break the spirit of the children, make them feel small. So low self-esteem is really a result of being in these environments where we are treated less, and made to feel like we are not enough.
Right.
And because of that, and as children we don't have the capacity to process. Yeah, so I heard somewhere that because of our brain waves, right, it's a very like they say, it's almost a hypnotic state till the age of 7. And children are like sponges. At that time the brain just absorbs whatever it is told. And if at that time, somebody tells you that, oh, you're not as good, you didn't get the same grades as somebody else, or, the child is made to feel that another sibling is more loved than this child, or the child is always neglected and beaten, right? So many different ways in which, the child feels slighted and small. Then that they don't have the capacity to process, right, to be able to sift through and say, okay, maybe the adult is behaving like this because of some trauma that the adult had. They just end up feeling small and broken, and we carry that smallness and brokenness into our adulthood, because that small child which has not processed information remains. And it's only later, when we become more conscious, when we have the capacity to actually see why it is, make allowances. Okay, this is why maybe my dad said this, or this is why maybe my mom behaved like this, right? We have to actually become more mature to be
Right.
able to see through all of that. So yes, it is a very real thing, this lack of self-esteem afflicting most adults, unless they process through it, right? Or they had these really great childhoods when, or maybe not, it's not even at home, right? Even in school, right? It's a competitive environment, right? Many reasons why people have low self-esteem.
Absolutely.
So to me, like through the yoga practice, what happens is we begin to connect to our own self. Like I said, the focus becomes our own self. Yeah, so there's a beautiful line in a prayer to Maharishi Patanjali, who's one of the most famous names associated with yoga practice, or revered names, I would say. Yeah, so in the prayer it says, Swa Atma Sukhava Bodhe, right? You get connected to the sukham, to the ease that is there within your own self. Yeah, so if we've grown up, as a child, longing for attention from parents that we never got, right, which ended up made us feeling really small, right? But the minute you do your yoga practice, you embark on it, you become connected to yourself. And then you stop being so dependent on what other people say, validation from other people, because you connect to that ease. Our inherent nature is peace and joy. Yeah, so they talk about Satchit Ananda, right? That bliss is our inherent nature. But because of all these things that happen in our lives, yeah, because of all of that, we're disconnected from that joy, from that bliss, from that feeling of fullness. So as we go deeper into the yoga practice, we become more and more connected to our inner self, and all the trauma, like the trauma sits in our bodies.
Right.
But just by doing the practice, to me, just by doing the deep stretching, the deep breathing, and all of that in our yoga practice, being constantly connected to elevated thinking, through all of that, the trauma just eases. So
Right.
it's not like it doesn't happen or it didn't happen. But when you look upon it, what really troubled you and shaped your life as a child or as a teenager, right? As an adult, through years of yoga practice, I find that it doesn't touch you anymore. The incident happened, but you're not connected to that anymore, because you've moved on and you've released all of those negative feelings that you had associated with it. So it's a process. That is what I would say. I would encourage people to just be patient. Yeah, it's not like you do one practice and it's gone. But yoga practice is really a philosophy for 24-hour living. Yeah, it's not just 1 hour a week class. It is something that you become connected to. Like I said, awareness, consciousness, all of that stays with you even after you leave the class.
Right.
So maybe in your class, your teacher is connecting you to become aware of your right big toe, become aware of your left elbow, right? Maybe those are the instructions that you're hearing. But the more you are able to tune into all of that, the more you're being able to be conscious of your body. That awareness goes with you when you leave class. So I say the mind in class and the mind outside class are not different. So in your yoga class, seeds are being planted, but it really flowers in your everyday life. And then when you're driving, you find yourself being more aware, right? Then you become aware, like I said, you become aware of irritation rising, you become aware of, anxiety rising, awareness. And then you have the tools, right? You can breathe well, you can focus on long exhalations to be able to release all of this, right? So you have the tools to deal with all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is why I feel the best thing you can do is really embark on a yoga practice, right? And everything that, that holds us down. Yeah. So in the Yoga Sutras, they also have a line on pranayama practice, right? What happens when we do pranayama practice? So they say we have the light within us, but it is covered. Yeah. But as we continue with our practice, that covering is relieved. Yeah. It's released. And you actually are truly connected to the light. So it's really about degrees. Yeah, it's not like from 0 to 100. Yeah, but if you found yourself feeling bad and feeling low, maybe for 50% of the day, as you start going through your practice, maybe it'll go down to 40. And then over a period of time, goes down to 30, right? And then maybe it didn't happen at all. It was something that you once struggled with.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a process, it's a journey. And I always say, I earlier used to think it was a lifetime journey. Now I think it's a many lifetime journey, but it is a beautiful journey because ultimately it is about transforming into your higher self.
Basically who you are. So my next question is to you. People are still reluctant to talk about their mental health even in the 21st century. Are there ways we can help them integrate mental health well-being into their lives and provide them with support and assistance when they
I think we discussed this briefly a little earlier. I had mentioned 3 points in that context.
Yes.
One is close friends and relatives have to be very supportive, understand the problems of the patient, give advice. There are psychiatry is a very advanced science. We can understand someone who is suffering from a wound or some injury and we can deal with it. But psychiatry, mental health is such a problem because nobody is able to share that suffering with that patient. So that is why close support of friends and relatives is very important. As I told you, celebrities have been coming out. The example of the girl Padukone,
Deepika Padukone.
Deepika Padukone, she had some mental issues.
Yeah,
and she came out and it encouraged many other people to go and seek advice and consult. So that is very important. And the third point is anonymous telephone consultation or some other method of consultation with specialists. This can be useful because people who don't want to mention the problems, mental problems of their own, can always consult anonymously. These are the 3 methods which I think we can use to encourage people to help themselves.
Right, sir. And so I think you're absolutely right. By these 3 ways, we can empower people and they might even start talking about their mental health, like they take inspiration from celebrities as you quoted. So I think that these 3 ways could be a great way for them to come up and talk about it. Ma'am, anything that you would like to add into this?
Yeah, I think these conversations are important. Like we shouldn't shy away from talking about this. So that the more conversations are held, right, on mental health issues, what challenges people have faced, and ways that you can deal with it, right? Because there are many ways that you can deal with it, with physical exercise being one of them, yoga practice being one of them, which incorporates physical exercise and movement as well, right? So there are many ways and tools, but these conversations are important, right, to reach people. So I think this is a very powerful medium through which, somebody can just be on their YouTube and, hear about these conversations, because at some level, everybody has issues. But the thing is to know that there are things that simple things. Yeah, they're not even complicated. It's just about, moving every day, right? So they say your body and mind are so connected right? So if if you're sitting, then you just stand. If you're standing, you just walk, right? If you're walking, you start running, right? So there's simple ways of moving your body and shifting your energy. Similarly, things, I always feel the most simple things are the most overlooked in today's life, right? Getting good sleep, that is so important. Getting good nutrition, yeah, because today our diet has become so different and we're so overloaded with junk food. But what we have to do is understand that what we eat has a definite impact on the way we feel.
Right.
So knowledge is really the key, sharing information about how all of the things that we do really contribute to our state of mind. The mind is not something separate in itself. So the good thing about it is all of these things can also be used to help our mental health. Yeah, so when we move our bodies regularly, when we do have good breathing, when we are conscious about breathing, we know how to manipulate our breathing, when we have the ability, we have some practices like maybe mantra chanting, all of that lifts our vibration. If we have good nutrition, if we have good sleep, all of this goes a long way towards easing mental health.
Right.
You'll be amazed at the number of people who tell me that they don't sleep before 2 o'clock in the morning. So even something as simple as sleep has become such a challenge for people.
Right.
And I read somewhere that after anti-anxiety medication, the most sought after medication is sleep medication, right? But it all comes down to our lifestyle patterns. And if we can just shine some light on lifestyle patterns and its importance of having good lifestyle patterns, like just eating properly, sleeping well, moving regularly, breathing well, right? Having a good attitude. Just by doing that, a lot of our mental health issues will improve. That's my firm belief.
You're absolutely right about that. And sir, as your book is such an inspiration to the young, sir, are you there? Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so my question to you is, as your book is an inspiration for the younger generation, any message that you have for them to motivate?
Yes. It is very important to be fit at any age, man, woman, child. The child should be encouraged to do whatever the child wants to do, whatever it wants to learn or pursue. Learn a new language apart from your mother tongue. Learn some musical instruments. Teach them to have some concern for less fortunate people. Habit. When we were young, we used to take our 3 children to 3 or 4 libraries every Sunday. They'll just collect books and read. Doesn't matter what they read. That reading habit is a great gift that we can give to the children. Play, of course, naturally. Be a good citizen, and God will look after you if you look after yourself mentally and spiritually. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank both of you for participating with us and making this a huge success for us. It was a pleasure talking to you. I was so engrossed in the entire conversation with both of you, sir and ma'am. I learned so much. I'm really appreciative of the fact that I got an opportunity to talk to both of you, to such two inspirations. Thank you so much for being here, sir and ma'am. Have a great day.
The Frontist Media is organizing this in January.